Hello and welcome to this special show that we are doing on ET now. We are calling this Infi the Big Fight. Now, based on all the explanations yesterday by the board, the response coming in from N.R. Narayanamurthy, one would have thought they have smoked the peace pipe. But if you really look at the tone of the press conference, the board was really defensive, and these are not new explanations coming from them. It pretty much echoed all that we've heard from Infosys in the last 1.5 years, right from the explanations around the severance pay, Vishal Sikka's compensation, his use of private jet, and even David Kennedy's severance pay. So nothing new has technically come out, but what one can say is that this was certainly a massive show of strength as far as the board of Infosys is concerned. All 10 directors of the board were logged in either physically or via VC or via phone. So this was really Infosys chairman Seshasai's way of asserting himself as far as the board of Infosys is concerned. Now remember, we did get you an exclusive story yesterday, a response from Infosys co-founder N.R. Narayanamurthy that he hasn't withdrawn his concerns yet, that he does want the board to go out and address it. But over the next 20 minutes, we really find out about the explanations coming from the board and if the founders really are happy at this point and what the next course of action could be. Meanwhile, if you look at the management of Infosys, they're clearly in damage control mode now because this has also raised a lot of concerns among their investors. Remember, while the promoters control nearly 13% of Infosys, a majority is controlled by public shareholders, by large institutional investors. While Vishal Sikka addressed some of these investors yesterday, tried to assuage their concerns, today, in fact, right now at 6 p.m., we are going to hear out the Infosys management yet again, led by its chairman Seshasai as well as its CEO Vishal Sikka, addressing investors again. Now, we expect this to last for at least 60 minutes. In fact, it will start in seconds from now. We will be cutting live to that, but a few more seconds from now, we will be cutting live to that, but we are expecting, more explanations, more attempts to really assuage concerns as far as the shareholders of Infosys are concerned. Remember, it's really important for Vishal Sikka to establish that all this hasn't really taken away from his strategy, from his execution, because remember, his compensation is tied to a pretty steep target of $20 billion by 2020. We really have to wait and see if Infosys can go ahead and achieve that amidst all these distractions, and what the capital allocation policy is going to be. Will there be more resistance from the promoter group, from the founder group, in fact, if Infosys goes out and does some big bang acquisitions, or will there be more demand from investors for a buyback now? Remember, Infy's rival Cognizant has already done a buyback, so we really have to wait and see how this will all play out. But first up, let's get you an exclusive conversation with the Infosys chairman and CEO. They spoke to ET Now Sandeep Gurumurthy last night, really detailing the concerns, and a very important news point coming there, where Seshasai said the board of Infosys has reached out to Narayanamurthy in the last couple of days. So perhaps we will expect some conciliatory measures coming out. Let's listen into that chunk.
There are issues that Murthy has flagged in terms of the responsibility of the board, even in arriving at a business judgment. Fine. So as I said earlier on, we would now go and say that how can we now sharpen this business judgment so another situation doesn't arise? I would say that why don't we just look at the way that we call out even when disclosure requirements are not necessary. So I would like to just take the substance. I think I would want to get away from getting into this personality conflict issue.
Sure. I don't want to get down in the specifics as well. I think the issue of Vishal's compensation and the issue of Punita Sinha's induction to the board, I think has been addressed, and I think it's just being kept alive for whatever reason. I think the one issue that we need to talk about is
until Punita retires, I think.
Yeah. Indeed. Vishal, why was that 17 crore payout necessary? Because I think people still fail to understand that there would be many high-level exits that will happen, and because the management took the first position and then went to board, would you like to clarify, and why did you think that such a excessive severance payout was necessary in the first place?
It was over a period of a couple of days, we went back and forth, and collectively we all agreed that this is what we will do. In hindsight, would we do this again? Almost certainly not. But at the time, that is what we did, and that is what looked like the right thing to do.
Seish, did you ever consider quitting?
I think, a lot of people in the last few days have been saying, how come you don't seem to have any stress on this? I think I fear conscience. That's the only thing. And I know that whatever I've done, my conscience is clear. And therefore, there might, in this world, you will have people who judge you differently. But every time to get upset about a judgment which you don't agree with, I think will destroy your world and destroy completely your focus on what you want to do. So I don't get.
Vishal, what about the collateral damage that this whole drama is causing? I know you met investors this morning, but surely they'd be pained by all that's going on. This conflict isn't doing the company any good.
The media attention is quite intense. Obviously, I think the root cause underneath these matters is something that the good way to look at this is that it will help everybody. And I think the important point, and as Seish also said, the feedback, the advice from the founders is something that we all.
In fact, let's cut to that Infosys con call right away, being addressed by Chairman Sesha Sai and CEO Vishal Sikka.
Personnel who commented on this. The issues basically were the same that had been dealt with in the past. There were no new issues of alleged corporate governance lapses, nor were there new evidences to support the alleged governance lapse. But nevertheless, I would like to take up the issues that were aired, and I would like to present to you our response on that briefly. The first issue concerned the appointment of Dr. Punita Sinha, for which, as you're all aware, we have overwhelming shareholder approval. The second issue related to the compensation revision for the CEO in April 16. Again, you're aware that all the necessary disclosures were made, and we have overwhelming shareholder approval for that as well. So I will not go into the details of these two. The third issue related to the severance pay for the ex-CFO, Rajiv Bansal, in October 2015. This issue again is something which had already been covered widely, both in the media, and discussions have been had with the investors in the past. The issue related to what is considered to be excessive severance pay, and there was also therefore a statement that it could possibly be silence money. There were no new evidences to support that. As you're all aware, this severance pay, which was agreed to be paid in October 2015, was in consideration of a severance agreement that had certain restrictive clauses, such as non-compete clause. And subsequent to that, there was a whistleblower complaint in July 2016 that alleged that this payment could be to silence the ex-CFO against certain impropriety in the company. Following that whistleblower complaint, we followed the due process, starting with writing to the whistleblower, offering the whistleblower the chance to nominate a law firm of his choice, agreeing to pay for that, with whom he could place the necessary evidence to conduct this investigation. Since there was no response from the anonymous whistleblower, the company decided to appoint a law firm in India, which went into the entire investigation, into the allegation, and conducted the investigation. And that was overseen by Latham and Watkins, and was also shadowed by the statutory auditor, KPMG. The result of that investigation, which established that there was no evidence to suggest that this severance amount was paid or was agreed to be paid to Silence, and that was also disclosed in our website. And this has also been subsequently been covered and made known to the media. And the last part related to the departure of General Counsel David Kennedy in December 2016. He also had an employment agreement that provided for 12 months severance pay. And in line with that employment agreement and based on that, a severance agreement was concluded and the severance pay of 12 months was paid. Now, this was in line with the contractual arrangement, and there was a suggestion that this was excessive. And these were the four major issues that were talked about in the founder's conversation with a media person. In addition to it, there was also a suggestion that there could be induction into the board of a few people. These names were received by us through the media and directly, and we would give the due respect for these proposals, but we would take the decision in the interest of all the shareholders. There was also a suggestion that I should step down, taking responsibility for the alleged lapses. And given the support of the board, I had stated that for the present I do not intend stepping down. In all these, in the last few days when this was happening, we had undivided and undistracted.
Okay, you heard out the chairman, Seshasai. If you compare it with what he said yesterday, it's pretty much the same in terms of the explanations given with respect to Rajiv Bansal. He's also said that, given the support of the board, I'm not going to step down. But we have a very important voice joining us on the phone line live from Bengaluru, V. Balakrishnan, a former board member of Infosys and someone who's been very vocal in the last few days on how Seshasai should perhaps take responsibility and step down. Bala, thank you so much for talking to ET Now, coming to us live. I just want to start by asking you, based on whatever you've heard yesterday and today, with investors, do you think they've done enough to really address founder concerns? And, does the chapter end here, or will this be an ongoing battle?
No, I think the press conference was a very disappointing one because they are not come out clear on all the issues which have been raised by the founders. If you take the example of that Rajiv Bansal's payment, it is not clear why a large separation payment was agreed in the first place. Because the employment contract talks about 3 months' notice. And Rajiv resigned from the company. That is what the press release in October 2015 says. So when somebody voluntarily resigns, you have to go as per the employment contract. They got a 3-month notice period and they serve the notice period. There is no need for any additional payment. So there is no explanation on why such a large was agreed and also why the payment was stopped. Because when you have an agreement between the company and Rajiv, they have to fulfill the agreement. That is what they said about Kennedy's contract. So, a lot of loose ends, no clear explanation. a very disappointing press conference.
Very disappointing press conference. That's the word coming from V. Balakrishnan. Sir, do you think the founders pretty much echo that sentiment that, the board came across as very defensive, disappointment all around? So what are the next steps then that we can expect?
No, I have not spoken to the founders. As a shareholder, I followed the press conference. None of the issues raised by us have been addressed. That is why I suggested people who were there at the helm of the affairs when all this happened should not be in the position of power when investigation happens. That is why I said the chairman should step down and get an interim chairman, do a thorough investigation, including a forensic audit, put all the investigation reports in front of shareholders. I mean, they have done 2 investigations. In all fairness, if to follow good corporate governance, they should put it in the public domain to all the shareholders. Let them see what has happened, and then restructure the board as the founders say, because you need people who follow the company's value system. Talk to founders and move on. I think they are saying the same thing publicly again and again. That is one of the reasons the issue, even though founders raised few months back, is still not settled because they are not giving clear answers on all the issues.
Right. Sir, just want to understand, we asked Mr. Seshasai on the way forward. So he said they are checking with Cyril on, how to treat the promoter group as an investor vis-a-vis other investors. What can they technically communicate and, to avoid asymmetry of information. Do you think these are steps in the right direction, or does appointing a law firm really defeat the purpose as far as this is concerned?
No, that is the issue because the board doesn't understand. It is not a legal issue. It is a governance issue. Governance issue need to be addressed by the board. Lawyers will say whether it is within the frames of law or it's outside. It is a governance issue. The board should directly engage with the shareholders who raise the issue, address all the concerns. And I think founders have raised valid concerns on governance. I think all investors should be worried. I think I am disappointed at large institutional investors are not asking this question. I don't see, in my 20 years of interaction with investors, I have not seen any single investor who wants to invest in company which has got governance issues. I think they should be raising the issue, and the board should be more open, engage with the shareholders and address all the issues. It's not happening. Appointing a legal law firm is not going to solve the problem. There is no question of lawyer.
Right. So I also want to understand, you've raised the point on investors, but Seshasai yesterday said that surprisingly the stock price actually went up in the last 1 week, and, that perhaps this is not such a big concern for other shareholders, the battle going on between the founders and the board. So do you think investors will really be concerned about this, or, will they shrug it off? Because if you look at the stock price reaction, there hasn't been a big development that we've seen in the last week when this issue really came to a head.
No, again, they don't understand. If you look at all the IT stocks, it has went up, not only Infosys. And in the last 2 years, the stock has been not given any return. It has been negative return. That means it shows up for no confidence on the board and the CEO. I mean, stock price is not an indicator of all this. I think Infosys had a governance premium against all the other stocks in the past. Infosys stock always had 25-30% incremental PE when compared to other stocks. It was always considered as a safe stock. It was always considered as a gold standard for governance. Today, if you look at the PE premium has gone. I mean, that is what the board should be addressing instead of taking the 2-day movement, 3-day movement to justify. Look at last 2-3 days, all the IT stocks went up, not only Infosys.
Right. Bala, stay on the line with us. We also got Punita Kumar Sinha, another independent director, who is in the line of fire for her appointment based on, her take on this whole issue and where things stand. Please stay on the line. We want to get her comment and get your reaction to the same. Let's hear out what Punita had to say.
This is not a battle, but it is obviously expression of passionate commitment and interests by various stakeholders, and the founders are in a special category of their own. Unfortunately, by the law, whether it is the US law, and Infosys is a US listed company as well, and by Indian law, there are disclosure norms that have to be practiced by company employees and board members with respect to stakeholders in terms of fair disclosure, etc. So as a board, we have to be very careful and we follow those norms. And as a result, not all information is given out to the founders that so they're coming to conclusions sometimes because we as a board have not been able to give them all the information. So they have a right to raise questions, as do any shareholders. And of course, their questions come from having built the company for 30 years. Their questions are going to be much, much more passionate and of a different nature than those you get from other shareholders. So I think Vishal and Seshasai did explain that we are engaging with key stakeholders, including the promoters and founders, to come up with various suggestions on items such as succession planning for various board members as they retire. But it is an ongoing discussion.
Bala, your counter to what Punita has to say, or rather your reaction to what she had to say?
No, it's all optics. I don't think founders say, you give me special information. Founders raise certain issue. They want the board to give that information to all the shareholders, and they are not asked any preferential information. I think it's all optics without understanding the issue.
Okay. Bala, before we let you go, really final couple of questions. Do you see this taking a very aggressive route? I mean, when we spoke to Seshasai yesterday, he said he did meet with NRN in Bengaluru to really thrash out some of these concerns. So do you think they will be able to sort it out amicably, or will the founders be forced to take some other steps, such as, calling of an EGM to overhaul the board? Will they really have to take those steps? Because for now, the board really seems defensive. They seem to be aligned, at least on the face of it.
No, I think the board should understand when a large shareholder raises a certain issue, they have to show some urgency in addressing the issue. They had been engaging with the founders for so long, and still the issues are lingering. It shows the level of engagement. I think they should take it very seriously before it becomes larger issue and become everything coming in the public domain. It is in the interest of all stakeholders. The board should take this issue seriously, engage with them quite faster and settle the issue. I hope it doesn't come to the stage where it goes to the next level. I only hope so.
Finally, Bala, before we let you go, you were one of the persons who was very vocal about, asking Sesh to step down. He told us yesterday, this is not something that Mr. Murthy or my board has asked, so I'm not going to. But do you see some conciliation in terms of, appointing at least an additional member who Mr. Murthy wants on the board? Could that be a peaceful way of sorting this out?
See, look, with all these issues, the trust deficit has only increased between shareholders and the board. I think you have to bridge the trust deficit. The only way to do it is to restructure the board, get some people who understand the company's value system, who understand the company history. That is what the founders have been saying. I think the board should come clean on all the issues raised by the founders. That is where I said in the interim, the chairman should step down and get an interim chairman who can effectively engage with the board, who can do a proper investigation, put everything in the public domain, and then restructure the board and move on. That is the right approach. Instead of making press conference and talking in public, that is not in anybody's interest.
Not in anybody's interest, but at least in the media's interest, Bala. But thank you so much for talking to us a day after that press conference. At least one former Infosys board member is not happy with the explanations given at this point. We really have to wait and see how the founders react to it as well. That's why we are still calling this Infosys the big fight. Clearly, the smoke pipe, so to speak. They haven't really smoked that. The peace is still not there. There are still differences to sort out. We have to wait and see how they take this forward. But that really brings us to the end of this special show. We will bring all the updates on Infosys. In fact, even as we speak, the management is talking to investors. We really have to wait and see if it's going to be more of the same or if they do have fresh explanations. But thank you so much for watching this special show.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.